Patch 13.5 was another massive one with many meta-shifting changes being issued. Is Yuumi back in a viable spot due to her mini rework? Is Jinx now the best ADC after her recent buffs? We've got all this to answer and so much more as we bring you guys the updated tier list for 13.5 thanks to the help of our challenger players in analyzing the most recent data. But before we get into it, be sure to check out SkillCapped if you want to truly get better at League of Legends. We're the only service that offers a money-back guarantee if you don't climb at least 5 divisions while actively using our service. We do this because our service really does work, and if it doesn't work for you, you shouldn't pay. Learn more at the end of this video or click the link in the description below. One top lane champion who's become a whole lot stronger this patch but is still being slept on is Pantheon. Lane bully power is pretty ridiculous now with Q cooldown being reduced by 2 seconds at rank 1. On top of this, Pantheon plays very well into many of the highly contested solo queue top laners like Jax, Jace, Aatrox, and Riven, winning over 53% in all of those matchups. The only meta matchup that is a hindrance to Pantheon is Malphite, so it's easy enough to just ban him out. If you're looking to pick up some Pantheon top, the standard build is Eclipse into Black Cleaver 2nd and Spear of Shojin 3rd. Conqueror is the best keystone rune, along with Resolve for secondaries, running Conditioning and Overgrowth. In regards to Pantheon's tier list placement, he will be locking down a very powerful S tier position for 13.5. Another top laner on the rise in recent patches, and who's suddenly the best solo queue tank, is Cho'Gath. Those 13.4 Cho'Gath buffs turned out extremely impactful, and he's absolutely dominating many meta top lane matchups. Many AD Bruiser top laners are getting smacked around by Malphite this patch, but Cho is one of the few champs who stomps on him super hard. With Cho being able to farm from range with Q and scaling really well due to his ultimate stacks, the champ is one of the better blind pickable tops right now. Even if you lose lane, you have many different ways to be impactful throughout the game, whether it be from landing CC in fights or securing objectives with ultimate. For Cho's tier list placement, he will be moving up one tier, going from A into S for 13.5. For the OP tier up in top lane, we have Malphite, Darius, and Olaf looking down on everyone else. Gangplank changes this patch have been a little more detrimental than GP mains would have liked, seeing him lose almost 3% of his overall win rate. GP had been a pretty OP pick for multiple patches, so a meta shakeup isn't a terrible thing, but we'll have to adjust him even further down the tier list into A tier for 13.5. You know buffs are pretty negligible when the champ actually becomes analytically worse after receiving them. That's been the unfortunate fate for Aatrox in 13.5, as his buffs have not moved the needle in the slightest to warrant a move up the tier list. Top 3 low elo top laners of the patch are Yorick, Garen, and Nasus. We have Fiora, Darius, and Malphite as the highest priority top lane bans. Jungle was changed this patch so that the gold you receive from killing camps is increased. This has led to a very positive outlook for one jungler in specific, being Kayn. Kayn can absolutely maul through a full clear, especially when he gets some items, so he has seen a nice uptick in power for 13.5. Kayn was also directly buffed a few patches ago, so all the changes combined have pushed him back into a really powerful spot for solo queue. S tier is where Kayn will be placed on the tier list. Besides Kayn, another really strong jungle option this patch, who has slowly but surely made his way back into meta, is Hecarim. Just like Kayn, Hecarim can blast through a clear due to his excellent AoE damage, so the gold increase on jungle camps has been great. Another big reason for Hecarim's resurgence is due to his very powerful versatile build of Black Cleaver, Manamune, and Radiant Virtue. We covered this setup in a recent OP builds video and is a huge reason to why Heck is seeing a lot more success. Heck is another jungler who will be moving up the tier list and back into a strong S tier spot for 13.5. The OP tier for jungle stays consistent from recent patches, with Fiddle, Evelynn, and Jarvan being the most optimal carries. Although farming has been incentivized a little more over ganking in 13.5, it has not shifted the win rate in the slightest of a strong ganker like Jarvan. Junglers who have the ability to clear their camps extremely fast have seen a small spike in win rate for 13.5. We already mentioned Kayn and Hecarim, but a few more worth noting include Karthus and Lilia. Rammus was the one jungler directly nerfed this patch, and he is lined up analytically with how much we expected his power to drop. Still a decent A tier jungler, but not the S tier pick of recent patches. The best low elo junglers of the patch are Fiddle, Mordekaiser, and Jarvan. Evelynn, Kayn, and Jarvan are 3 of the highest value bans. Well, it's safe to say that the Aurelion Sol nerfs did very little in reducing his power level. It makes sense as to why Riot would go lighter on the first set of nerfs, because they don't want their newly reworked champion immediately pushed out of meta. Gotta sell those skins somehow! One thing worth noting in regards to Aurelion's build this patch is that Liandry's is quite underrated in the correct spots. Many players are just autopilot building Rod of Ages each game, but when you are going against an enemy comp that has 3 or more champs that stack health, prioritize Liandry's instead. As for Aurelian's tier list placement, we did originally expect the nerfs to hit a little harder, but Sol continues to perform extremely well in 13.5, and we'll be giving him the bump back into OP tier. Yikes, those Azir changes are not playing out very well thus far, with his overall win rate plummeting 3%. Riot tried to weaken Azir's laning power while compensating his late game scaling, but those early game nerfs have outweighed the buffs by a long shot. Base stat changes are often overlooked and hard to predict how impactful they'll turn out, but with Azir losing 70 base health along with 60 mana, he's so much more exploitable early on. Sure, the late game power may be stronger, but does that really matter if you can't even escape the laning phase to reach that point? Riot likely follows up on Azir heading into 13.6, so we would recommend to stay away from the pick and solo queue until further buffs come through. For the mid lane tier list, OP champs consist of Annie, Aurelion Sol, and Cassiopeia. We expected a little more out of Seraph's nerfs, but they really haven't moved the needle in regards to decreasing the power level of champs like Cassio, Anivia, and Aurelion. All three remain top tier carries for 13.5. To follow up on the LeBlanc Q buffs, they were more of a quality of life change than a buff, as the changes have not significantly shifted her power for solo queue. As a result, LeBlanc will continue to be ranked in our mid lane B tier. If you've been trying to climb from low elo in mid lane, now is one of the best times to do so, with Annie being in such a great spot. If all you have are Annie and Veigar in your champion pool right now, for any elo bracket really, you're set up extremely well for 13.5. As for the best mid lane bans, Annie, Veigar, and Aurelion Sol top the list. Why does it always seem like whenever Riot tries to buff Veigar, he ends up being a better bot lane carry than a mid laner? That's what's played out once again, as Veigar is absolutely smashing the bot lane competition in 13.5. Bot lane Veigar has always been a safer pick than mid lane because you don't have to deal with high mobility assassins that can zone you off farm. With Q range being increased, it now becomes even easier for Veigar to secure CS bot lane, and he gets to scale for free. Kill power at level 6 is nothing to scoff at either, and now that we are seeing more hook supports played due to recent Thresh and Nautilus buffs, the meta synergies for Veigar are great. The most popular build is actually kind of disgusting, as you build Rod into Archangel 2nd and Deadman's Plate 3rd. In a way, this build defies the laws of League, as you're able to deal a boatload of damage while being a semi-tank at the same time. Optimal rune page to run is First Strike with Sorcery, for secondaries being Mana Flow and Transcendence. OP tier is where you'll find Veigar on the bot lane tier list for 13.5. We predicted that Jinx would become an OP carry off the back of her 13.5 buffs, and that's exactly what's played out thus far. Massive win rate and play rate spike this patch, which in combination are good confirmations that Jinx is indeed an OP ADC. Kraken into Infinity Edge combo is the standard 2-item core for Jinx right now. Third item really depends on the game, as Fire Cannon, Phantom Dancer, and Hurricane are all viable. Lethal Tempo is far and beyond the best keystone for Jinx, combined with Sorcery for secondaries, running Absolute Focus and Gathering Storm. So we've got two newcomers in the OP tier this patch, with Veigar and Jinx joining alongside Xayah. The Xayah nerfs have reduced her power level a decent amount, but not quite to the extent where she is stripped from her OP tier spot. On the other hand, Kate nerfs have been quite detrimental, and have pushed her down to being one of the weaker ADCs. Those base stat nerfs never seem like a massive deal on paper, but in this case have shaved off about 2% to Caitlyn's win rate. Although Ashe changes were targeted at nerfing support Ashe while keeping ADC Ashe in check, they've negatively impacted Ashe ADC as well. So, of all of the ADC changes this patch, Xayah and Twitch are still great, while Kate and Ashe are two worth staying away from now. Our top 3 low elo picks for ADC are Tristana, Misfortune, and Veigar. Jinx, Draven, and Xayah are who we have highest on the ban list. It was fun while it lasted, with Yuumi being picked in only 2% of games last patch, but as a result of the mini rework, she's now the second most played support. It pains us to report that she's actually not in a terrible spot either. Skill expression is definitely down compared to the previous version of Yuumi, which is weird to even say considering she was pretty simple before. With her new passive, you more often than not just want to sit on your ADC instead of swapping around based on unique circumstances. Best synergies right now are with the stronger scaling teamfight ADCs like Zeri, Twitch, and Sivir. Yuumi's performing absolutely trash with picks like Draven, Samira, and Caitlyn, which makes sense as her early laning power is definitely weaker than before. In regards to Yuumi's tier list placement, she will be making the jump from the depths of C tier all the way into A tier for 13.5. Ashe ADC was hit pretty hard by the nerfs, but Ashe support has been absolutely decimated. W and R nerfs directly target Ashe support, while the Q buffs don't really do anything to compensate. Melee supports are looking extra juicy now, as this is yet another ranged support that falls off the ship. Ashe will be swapping positions with Yuumi this patch, going from A tier all the way down to C. The bulk of the support meta does not change all that much for 13.5, as Senna, Thresh, Annie, and Rakan remain the most powerful carries. With Yuumi being played a ton once again, look to punish her by picking a strong melee engaged support like Rakan, Nautilus, or Thresh. All three champs are finding amazing success into Yuumi, winning over 54% of the time in the matchup. Brand, Heimer, and Zyra are who we recommend the most to climb low elo the fastest. Rakan, Thresh, and Annie are all amazing ban options due to their high play rates and overall power levels. Alright guys, before we wrap this up, let's tell you a little more about SkillCapped. So, we offer a 5-division rank up guarantee, and think that's a pretty crazy thing to offer. It's like a gym membership guaranteeing you'll get ripped. Your local gym would go bust if they offered that, right? Not us. We've offered this for years because our service really does work. It works so well, in fact, that we're able to produce by far the largest catalog of premium league guides on the internet. We add over 20 videos a week, with over 1,600 guides curated into over 100 courses no one can compare. We've also sent challenger players into Elo Hell 714 times and counting, where they commentate how to carry live. They also respond to all questions asked. Sign up today for as little as $6.99 a month if you are serious about improving. So there you have it guys, a complete update on the solo queue tier list as we reach the midway mark of 13.5. Thank you all for watching, good luck in solo queue, and we'll catch you back soon.